welcome. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Erica. I'm not going to give you guys the usual because I know you guys have heard this before, but thank you for coming today. We're going to be hearing from Glenn on sales. So we're super excited about that. Just friendly reminder, Conductor exists to empower entrepreneurs, small businesses, and leaders here in Central Arkansas. And we do that through events, through networking opportunities, through one-on-one consults, and through the Art Innovation Center that is powered by Coleman Corporation, which is a low-cost co-working space. So also I wanted to share with you guys, if you are enjoying today's workshop, you're learning something, we'd love it if you tag us on Facebook or Instagram that you're here with us today. And please help me welcome Glenn.
Thank you all. Just a little background. I know many of you in the room, some of you have been to our home, and I know several of you, but I spent 25 years at Axiom Corporation. So I was in a number of roles, product leadership, but mostly in sales. And then in 2017, I decided to leave Axiom. A lot of people at Axiom left but didn't get the option to stay. So I was one of those fortunate ones that I left on my terms when I wanted to go. And we started, Jeff Staples and I co-founded Dave Creek Media. So, and Jeff's not involved in it daily, but he's, if any of you know, and I'm sure everybody knows Jeff, he has a lot of wisdom. I was commenting the other day, I was at the Chamber Awards presentation for Business of the Year, those kind of things. And I had the privilege of introducing American Safeguard Insurance, which is a company that Jeff owns. Now, I introduced them as the Outstanding Small Business of the Year. Last year, we won Outstanding Small Business of the Year, also Jeff partner, and then Grace won an award this year connected with Jeff. So we're going to change the awards to those connected with Jeff Stanbridge Awards. So, there are a lot of those. But anyway, so we've been really blessed. We're up to, so it was just me in April of 2017. I think we're at 42, 43 people now. So we're continuing to grow. And, you know, I tell people all the time, it's really exciting because we'll have our team meeting with everybody together. And I'll look around and I'm like, this is so cool. We've grown the business this big. And then in my mind, I'm calculating payroll costs. So I'm going to take the bag and try not to hyperventilate whenever I think through that. So, but my background is in sales. So anytime I get to talk about sales, I get really excited. This is something that I really enjoy. Now, some of you guys were here yesterday, so you're going to see a little bit of the stuff, but I'm going to go into more detail. We had there's a 10X accelerator, 10X growth accelerator that Conductor does, and I have the privilege of being on that team since we started. So we bring in companies with revenue between 100,000 and 10 million in revenue. Yeah, 10 million in revenue, and they go through a 14-week period or training session where they learn how to set up their operations, they'll learn about leadership, those kind of things. So we did that with them, and we had that part of that group in last week. So if you know anybody interested or you have a company that might be interested, be sure to sign up for that. So I'm going to talk about sales, and I want it to be, you know, there are a lot of really, really good presenters. I like to think I'm more of a conversationalist. So I may try to be funny or just have a conversation. So I'm not a real strict professional presentation person. So if anyone's been around me for very long, and Ed saw this yesterday, right? Several of you did. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. You can have the best idea, the best business in the world, best HVAC, whatever, but if somebody doesn't sell something, it's not going to go very far. That's how you support all those people in that payroll. You've got to sell something. And a lot of companies will spend a lot of time to be perfect. Right? I need to make sure my operations are perfect and my org chart's perfect and those kind of things. And they're afraid to go sell. And oftentimes those companies struggle. There are others that they just go sell something and then, hey, we got to figure it out on the back end. They struggle less. They still have to deliver, but you got to go sell something, right? Just get out of your car, go meet with somebody and sell something. So let me ask you this question. So when I say salesperson or sales, what are some examples that come to mind? Yes, ma'am.
Car salesman.
Car salesman, right? And are there any car salesmen here?
There might be some on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if there are, there's nothing wrong with that because not everybody, but that's a lot of times, and why is that? What does that image represent when you think about that?
It's like a stereotype of the sleazy.
Sleazy, right? I mean, and I will tell you, there are a lot of car salesmen that are not that way, but there are some that have the stereotype of, you know, what's it gonna take to do the deal? All right, if you'll sign today, I'll throw in formats. How about a steak dinner, full tank of gas, you know, whatever. And you go in knowing that whatever price they give you, you're not gonna pay that because you're gonna negotiate or you'll go down the street. What else comes to mind from a sales standpoint?
When you walk into Sam's Club, the AT&T.
Attention out the T-Mobile, yeah. They should take lessons in Allen.
Or Bass Pro Shop. They're trying to get you to sign up for their timeshare stuff, that kind of thing. So what, unfortunately, that's where most of people's minds go to that, right? They go to the negative side. I didn't hear anybody say that person who helped me solve this problem or this person who eliminated this issue that I was having. Everything goes to, they're trying to get me to buy something I don't really want. So that's where it normally comes from. And I know several of you are in sales and you're not like that, right? But that's what everybody thinks. So anytime I talk to people about a sales role, they're like, yeah, that's not something I can do. And I tell people, I mentioned this in the meeting yesterday, every job involves sales. Your operations, if you're accounting, whatever, you're always trying to sell somebody on the next concept or the new process, whatever. The salespeople are the only ones smart enough to say, why work two jobs? So they just do one job. So here's what the definition is of sales. A transaction that includes an exchange of services or goods for a certain amount of money. Very basic. So what service does a salesperson provide? It's a good salesperson. Let's say a good salesperson.
Solving a problem with demand.
Solving a problem. That's exactly right. If you view yourself as a problem solver, it doesn't even feel like sales. I like to tell people sometimes we teach almost like a family practitioner methodology for sales, right? So we're going to look at your throat, we're going to poke here, we're going to ask some questions, we're going to do all this stuff to figure out where the problems are, where the issues are, and then that's what we'll try to solve. And sometimes we can solve it, but sometimes we can't. We'll send them someplace else. We're not coming in and they say, hey, my arm's hurt. Well, all right, let's cut it off, right? We don't do that. We try to understand where the real issue is. So they're really problem solvers, and you nailed it. So today I'll talk a little bit about B2B, which is business to business. So if you're just selling to other companies, other agencies, that would be business to business, business to consumer. I'm selling products and services to individuals. So some of the product, if I'm a marketing company, and I know there are several of us in here, so that's, in fact, this is like the marketing show. I think, you know, there are at least 4 of us in here that I'm aware of. And I love this, I love Conway's environment, because we all have this abundance mentality. There's plenty for everybody, right? No one's like, well, I'm not gonna give all my secrets away because there's competition. No, now there may be some of that, but that's not how most of us operate, right? So if I'm a marketing company, the problem that I'm solving is I need to attract more customers. Now, what will happen sometimes is, you guys have seen this, they'll say, hey, I need a new website. And we can respond with, here's how I can do the new website. But if you ask enough questions, it will always come back to, I need more customers, right? Insurance companies, if they're selling B2B, they're helping that. The problem they're solving is protecting the assets of that business. Accounting, if it's an accounting company, they're helping that business track and manage their money, helping them make a profit. Staffing would be providing quality employees. So again, we're not selling bookkeeping services, we're selling the end result. Business to C, B2C, and I have roofing in here. I should have done HVAC, didn't think about it. But same thing, right? So roofing is really to protect the home. The problem you're solving with HVAC is we're not providing air conditioning or heating, we're providing comfort for your home when the weather's bad. Retail will be providing products for wants and needs, and I'm not going to get into that because that can be a little bit tricky, especially when speaking with family. Do you really need that, or did you really want it? So I'm not going to get into that. Dentist, diagnosis and treatment of oral health issues, and then restaurants, the issue problem they're solving is providing meals. So think about the business that you're in, and forget about what you're selling. Think about the outcome you're providing. So when I go buy this, what am I buying? I go to Lowe's and buy this, what am I buying? Who said a hole? You've heard me before. Cheer over here. You're not buying a drill bit, you're buying a hole, right? You're actually paying for the drill bit, but nobody wants a drill bit, they want a hole. So think about, get away from what you're selling and focus more on the why. So the key is focus, and some of this came out in our meeting yesterday. If you're focusing on everything, you're focusing on nothing. Things we like to start with, and I also go through this almost every time I do a sales presentation. You need to know who your ICP is. We call it your ideal customer profile. But it could be ideal client profile, ideal patient profile, ideal student profile, ideal company profile, whatever that is. You need to know who you're focusing on. And it doesn't need to be so broad that it's everybody, right? So I've had companies that will come in and say, I said, who's your ideal customer? We would sell everybody from 21 to 75. Well, you may sell to them, but that's not what you focus on. I'll give you a brief example, and maybe this is a shameless plug, but so we have an Airbnb property, and we have several, but we have one that we're really proud of, and it's a tree house. And this tree house is out in the middle of the woods on 18 acres, really, really cool, has a hot tub, all this stuff. We could say anybody from 21 to 75 or older could rent it. We really believe it's probably that 30 to 45-year-old female that would be most interested, because most of the females book vacations or trips for their families. So what we do when we do it, we're doing social posts. This is kind of funny. We do social posts. We're trying to appeal to that segment. I'm doing most of the posts. So if you see a post and it's like, I'm not sure that's a 30 to 45-year-old woman, I'm trying to put my head in that category so that I can get a post. But we can market to everybody, but where do you put your focus? If you're a company, you got to know so on individuals, they're called demographics. So that would be age, income, do they have children, are they married, what's their net worth, those kind of things. On the business side, they're called firmographics. That would be income or revenue, number of employees, number of locations. Is this a franchise, multiple locations, that kind of thing. And you can get all that information. There are a lot of companies can do that. Some don't do it real accurately, but there are ways that you can get to some of that. You also need to know what your UVP, unique value proposition. And I've got several examples. Know how you're different than everybody else, because if you're like everybody else, then why would they buy from you? There's a theory or a book, it's called the Red Ocean, Blue Ocean Theory. Anybody familiar with that? Very good, right? So red ocean is the blood is churning the ocean is churning, and it's red because of all the blood. There's a lot of competition. There is so much competition that most of the strategies are, let's just keep dropping our price until we can win the business. What are some red ocean companies you can think of? Janitorial. Could somebody say janitorial? Maybe coffee shop. There's so many coffee shops here, but they each try to have their own personality so that they can appeal to a different segment. What's a blue ocean? So blue ocean is little competition. You have something unique. You can set the price. That's where you actually want to be. So you think of either previous or current blue ocean examples. I'm sorry.
Place.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. So maybe there's not a ton of those. That would be an area that you could explore. What about Tesla? I mean, when they got in that market, there was still some, but they changed the game, right? Apple's a prime example, right? I mean, think about the iPod and the iPad and all the stuff that they're doing. Starbucks, even from a coffee shop, they did it differently. So you can take a concept, it doesn't have to be brand new, you can take it and modify it and make it different. So for us, we use what we call our connected marketing architecture. It's our framework that we use for marketing. There's another book that I like called Purple Cow, and it becomes we even describe things using Is that a purple cow or not? So here's the concept of this book. This would be, if you leave here and you go in any direction, and you go, within 15 minutes, you're gonna go by a pasture. You're gonna look out, you're gonna see a bunch of cows out in this field. There'll be brown cows, white cows, black cows, spotted. I said stripes, and they said, no, that's a zebra, but there are cows that have stripes, right? But if you saw one that was purple, what would you do? I mean, you're driving along, you going to Worcester or whatever, you look over, you see a purple cow walking, what would you do? You'd stop. What else would you do?
Take a picture with
Take a picture, right? You're like, snap, maybe even a selfie, maybe a video, then what do you do with it? You share it, you post it, you tell everybody about it, right? It's crazy, everybody wants to, so imagine your business, if you can figure out your purple cow where people want to talk about it, and tell all their friends about it, right? It's kind of like Ed's, beef sticks. That's something that's, you just pass it out. Well, there are a lot of beef sticks out there, but I believe that it's your story that you're trying to make purple cow, right? So it's the family thing versus corporate America that has all the stuff. There's also the diagram on the right that is better, faster, cheaper, right? What's the rule? You can have one, you can have two, but you can have all three. So figure out where you play and then lean into that lane. There's a saying there are riches and niches, right? So if you have an area that you're trying to focus on, get laser focused on that area and goes back to the ICP. Now what that ICP is, and just be the best that you can in that space. You can have multiple, but try to get really laser focused. Now when you start, when you're brand new, you may have to cast a wide net to figure out where your options are. We did that when we started. We worked with a company that did forensics on electronic devices. We had no idea how to do that. We tried it, it didn't work out. So we now, guess what? Someone comes to us with that, it's like, we don't really have a good option for that. There we go. So know where your lane is, know who you're focusing on, and lean into that. So it's also important to have a process. Now, the process I'm going to share, I've been sharing for many years, and it is high level, but it's the same buckets every time. Now, within each of these, if I were taking someone through our sales training, it would be very, very detailed. So
When you say sales training, what does that look like?
So, as part of the, well, I do it through 10X. So I do it for that, and then our teams, I do that, and then Jeff and I have some clients that we work with out of Florida that we do coaching on and that kind of thing. But I'm also happy to sit down. I used to have office hours. Now I do the peer group here. But if you want to get some time, just call me. I'm happy to help. So what we do is we put it in four major buckets. We call it SALE, and that makes it easy to remember. So it's start with the relationship, and you've probably heard the same people buy from people that know, like, and trust. And we believe that 40% of the process is on the relationship piece. So and this is more the B2B. B2C, I'll give you some examples in a minute. But if you go try to meet somebody and tell them or sell them something, they don't know who you are, there's a good chance they're going to push back because they don't really trust you. The second piece is assessing pains, issues. We talked about what do salespeople do? They solve problems. Well, you can't solve it if you don't know what it is. So that's about 30% of the process. So you have a relationship, you know what the issues are because you ask questions. And I'm going to give you some examples on how you do that. The next is that you lay out a solution that addresses those problems. So, hey, we're friends now. You understand who I am. You told me this was the problem. Here's how we're going to solve that problem. Here's how we're going to fix it. And then that's 20%. So here's, if I had you all school yourself on what part of sales, prospecting, presenting, all those things, I'm not going to bet the farm because I know I have one, but used to when I would say that. Anyway, closing is typically where the issue is. Most people are uncomfortable asking for the business. But if you did all of those things, that's 90% of the process. You know what the budget is, you know what the pain is, you presented something, you've got buy-in when you present it to say, did I address that need? Yes. Did I cover that issue? Yes. Everything's positive. me to talk faster or? If I've done all that, then the close is really very simple. And it's important that you don't go out of sequence. So we used the example yesterday, Jeff and I were presenting, and we used the dating as an example. And we use that because we're so good at it, right? I've been married, this year will be 31 years. Jeff is like 34, so we haven't been on that path in a very long time. So from what we understand, way back when we used to, you would never meet somebody the first time and say, hey, Caitlin, I'm Glenn Crockett, would you like to marry me? She's probably gonna smack me, right? She's gonna say, get out of here. You would never do that. So you need to follow, it'd be like, hey, let's build a relationship. What do you like? What do you not like? Oh, yeah, I like that too. Let's go do that. Then you can ask the big question, right? So, and eventually get to grandkids and all that stuff. That's another story. So follow this process, and this is iterative. So you don't do it just one time. So I might build a relationship with Tanisha, and we're talking, I might actually understand what she's looking for. Yeah, I think we need a discovery meeting, and the close might be, well, let's get on the calendar for next week, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and let's dig into a little bit more. So it could be a series of these things. So here's some examples of how to build relationships. So if it's B2B, one of the biggest areas or the most successful is to get referrals. So if you're, this would simply be, hey, Mark, I'm in the marketing space now, and I know you know a lot of people. Is there anybody you can think of that might need some marketing services? Mark might say, well, I was talking to Ed, he's got this beef steak thing, and he needs somebody to help him with his marketing. And I would say, would you mind making an introduction? He could connect me. All of a sudden, Ed sees it coming from Mark, the introduction, relationship's much cleaner. Or he might say, I'd love to, but I don't really have the time right now. I said, would you mind sharing Ed's email? Not a problem, I'll send it to you. So I'm gonna send an email to Ed. I'm gonna put Mark McNair in the subject line. I guarantee you he will open it when he sees his friend's email in the subject, or name in the subject line. Then I'm not gonna try to sell him. I'm gonna start trying to get to the relationship piece. I just wanna have a conversation. So do that to get referrals. And if anybody's familiar with Cutco, they're probably the best. Because they will not leave your space or your house until you give them a referral. LinkedIn, that's another good tool. There are a lot of different levels of LinkedIn. But I used to think it was just for people looking for a job or people looking to hire somebody. But it's becoming much greater from a social standpoint now. So be active. Now the key here is to not I'll bounce back so I don't lose my screen. The key here is not to jump from trying to sell them something. If I'm trying to work the beef stick, and I'm picking on you, Ed. If I'm trying to build a relationship with Ed, I don't try to sell him something. I start following him, and I'm making comments on his. Post. So maybe Ed's talking about something that I'm interested in. And I'm like, hey, Ed, great point. And I do that for several months, several weeks, whatever, until it gets to the point, hey, we have a lot in common. And it needs to be genuine. Don't do it as a just hokey, but build a relationship. And he may, as that relationship's built, you may find out he might not be a good option for you. But at some point, you can say, hey, let's grab 15 minutes. I'd like to catch up. Networking, things like this, when you go to these kind of things, don't just come in and sit and listen to the speaker. Walk around the room. Hey, I'm Mark McNair. What do you do? Tell me what you do. Build those relationships because they may come back to you later. Yes.
Just a quick question about that LinkedIn strategy suggestion of commenting on a post or commenting on something that stood out. I'm just wondering what would that look like if you're browsing, you find your ICP, and are we just commenting to engage maybe over the next couple of days and then sending
It
a
could be
message?
a couple of months. It could be, there's a company that I met, I think from Texas, and he has a team of people, and all they do, they are SDRs, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Their whole job is to engage with a list of prospects over 2 or 3 months. And then they will reach out and say, hey, I saw this. I've got somebody that I work with that might be able to help in this issue you mentioned. And they'll set up a meeting and they're out and they get paid for that connection. So it's not over days, it's normally a little bit longer.
Okay, so then follow-up question. Not only just commenting on their post or engaging with their posts and things that stood out, you know, making that introduction to when you know, slide in their DMs, you know, what, you know, is kind of maybe a suggested starter, you know, conversation for that.
I would, again, not try to sell something. I would just say, hey, I noticed your post, or just, hey, I'd like to connect, let's see, we have a lot in common, done. And then let it sit for a while, and then come back later and maybe have another conversation. But I promise you, if I went into LinkedIn right now, you're gonna see a lot of people trying to sell me something I have no relationship. I connected with them, but I have no relationship, and I will ignore them until there's a reason for me to connect. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is my last follow-up.
Sure.
Is it frowned upon to say, hey, I like something that you posted, would you like to have a virtual coffee chat? Is that weird?
No, I see that a lot.
Okay.
And sometimes what I'll do, because I'm in this space, I will see somebody that does that and I will accept it just to see the process. I even had 2 calls with a guy in Atlanta, and I told him, I said, I'm in sales like you are. I'm just trying to see your process. And he was offering me a free Yeti or something to, you know, it'll take 20 minutes, I'll send you a free Yeti. I didn't need it. I didn't ask for it because I knew I didn't really want to buy anything from him. But I went through the process, and it's funny when you're in it, you can recognize, like, I know you just closed me for the next meeting. I know that you're going to follow up. And then he did hey, normally before I go any further, I get a verbal commitment that you have the authority to make the decision. So he's qualifying me that I have the authority to buyer. I have the budget. He's doing all that. And so I went through the whole process and I said, hey, I appreciate it, but I'm really not interested. He may or may not follow up in a couple of months, but if he felt like I were a qualified lead, he would.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes.
Like really good for this. On LinkedIn specifically, I know a lot of people's inboxes are filled with like just a lot of DMs of just offers instantly. I mean, I know you recommend like building the relationship in the comments for several months, even just to build that, and then maybe shoot them a DM to connect. Being in the DMs yourself, like, how do you like be super genuine and come off as like never trying to sell and trying to commit, trying to just connect, you know?
So the way I keep from coming off that way is I don't act that way. When I connect with someone, it's normally there is a true desire to have a relationship, see if there's something there. You can do some prospecting in that. It may be that you just say, hey, I know you don't know me. I've got a marketing company. I know, or I'm confident that I can help your business. If you're open to live there, you know, don't do the hopeless stuff, right? You know, it's like, hey, I saw you're in Arkansas, go Bears. You know, it's like, and I've got that in my LinkedIn. You know, you want to connect and show that you've done some. I've had some that I love these. Hey, Glenn, I sent you a video. Click here to see. You get those all the time.
Oh my
right?
God, they're so bad. They'll like scroll our website with their face in the little corner and then tell me everything that's wrong with their website. I'm like, why would I go with you?
That's right. That's right. So there is a book, and Grace will know that I'm gonna mention a book at least once. I don't think I've got any examples, but it's called Fanatical Prospecting, and it's a really good book. And one of the concepts in the book is the 90-day rule. I walked over here, I'm like, I hope they can see the screen, and I remember I'm about this tall, so you can see the screen. But it's called the 90-day rule. And the 90-day rule says whatever is happening now or not happening now is a result of what you did 90 days ago. So if you're in sales and it's awful dead, go look at your calendar. What did you do 90 days? And it's not exactly 90 days, but the concept being, if you don't do the things you're doing now will have an impact a little bit later. So 2 or 3 months might not be a big deal. It's like, well, I can't wait that long. Well, if you've been doing it 90 days ago, you wouldn't have to worry about it. You've got things you're working on now. Does that make sense? Yes.
Okay, as far as the sales cycle, when you're building a relationship and all of that, how long does it typically last? Like, how many cycles do you need to go through before you start to basically close? I'm gonna give you an example. I have a prospective client, he doesn't know that he is, but he is. That I've been basically stalking for about, I don't know, it's been about 3 or 4 months, just email here and there, or give like information about their company that would be beneficial to them. And I feel that I'm not getting anywhere when do you just stop?
So, and that's a great question. So the sales cycle typically is, it depends on what it is that you're selling, right? So like I've told Ed, if it's me, I load up all the beef sticks I've got, cases, and I get in a vehicle and I'm driving my market. I'm starting close and I'm getting wider and wider and wider. That's a one-stop close. Hey, Tanisha, we've got a beef stick like nobody else has. I've got something with me. I'm gonna close it right then on the spot. When I was at Axiom, it might take a year or longer to close the deal because we're talking about multi-million-dollar deals.
Yes.
But at some point, you gotta let it go, right? And some people, so we're not getting into it today, but there are a lot of different personality styles. I'm sure you're all taking a test. There are some people that are so nice, they just don't want to hurt your feelings. So they're gonna drag on and drag on and drag on. And you just gotta recognize that. All right, I understand what personality you are. You're probably never gonna tell me no. So I'm gonna tell you no. I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna leave you alone for a while. Let me reach back out in a couple of months. And if you want to reach back out, that's fine. But you've got to have a pipeline that's big enough where if you don't get that one, you got more than enough to cover. Does that help?
I try to leave them with a education piece when I know they may or may not use us for their meeting there, they're getting other bids, or, and we encourage other bids, we encourage them to go out and see what's out there, because we know we're the best, simple as that. But I do leave them with the education piece. Hey, just so you know, I just dropped like a little line, like, this is what your unit is, this is what it means, and so when you're asking for bids, make sure you ask for the specific things so you can get an equal to equal bid. And so that helps build that trust and kind of, even if I've still had customers that don't go with us on the larger purchase, but then still maintain us on the smaller purchase, and so we're still got that relationship, and so it just helps.
Yeah, the
So
small,
there's something you can lean in and draw on.
and that's a great strategy. Start with something, right? Get your foot in the door. It's called land and expand, right? So you land with something, get the transaction, you get on the approved billing list, you get on whatever it is,
Right.
and it's small. And then you prove value, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger. So, yeah, so that's what I would do. You don't want to go for too long. Speaking of this, if you get yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna talk about like the question of being super formal or informal, like being like somewhat fake but real, or being just super authentic. Cause I know different social medias are different and how the DMs work and how people reach out to other people. But like, you'd be like, hey man, or like, hey bro, like seriously, it sounds so informal, but you're treating them like a friend. I mean, as far as I can tell, has been a lot more successful than most of the LinkedIn DMs that are just like way too formal, and then you're just kind of bored. You
Right.
don't feel authentic.
So I would hope if you ran into me at the treehouse, at dinner, at a chamber banquet, that the Glenn that you see there is exactly the Glenn that was someplace else at someplace. So I want it to be authentic. However, sometimes you have to adapt your what you say to the audience that you're speaking with. So we were in a competitive situation for a new marketing client. And I knew that the client, the prospect, they wear coats and ties, they're very formal, very rigid. And it was our turn to go in, and the team that left had on the cool t-shirts, they were really hip, and we walked with our sport coats. Guess who won? We won, right? They trusted us. We matched their vibe. If I'm going to meet with a manufacturer, I'm probably not going to show up in a sport coat, right? I went to somebody else, and I had on cowboy boots. Doesn't mean I'm being off. The person's the same, but I don't want to come across as not being. I don't want to be too high, but you also you want to be below, but you don't want to be too far above.
Let's reciprocate that energy.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to talk to someone, like if you were showing up right now to talk to someone about doing their marketing for a new album they're going to release, should you know a young man that produces music, you were going to help them, you'd be awesome, right? They even have a ball cap on. But if you show up at the Chamber of Commerce to try to pitch something, they may go, well, I don't know if you're legit or not. So you gotta know who you're speaking to.
I'll add to that. When I used to recruit for UCA, I had someone give really good advice to recruiters years, and she said, depending on your area and demographic of the students that you're going to see, so I had a mix of these private schools in Memphis, that were really well-funded schools and had a lot of resources, and then it was a mix of Arkansas public schools. And so, she just said, be aware of what you're wearing. You want to be professional, but you don't want to intimidate people if you're selling something. You want to relate to these students, but still remain the adult in the room. And so I think that what you said is a good balance.
Yeah, there's a balance. I'm part of a group called Vistage, and we had a speaker that came in, and he had on a golf shirt, shirt tails out, and these are all CEOs of companies, and it had Texas A&M on it. So he had to do some things to get past the why am I listening to kind of thing. So, Mark, did you have a question or comment?
I was actually just gonna ask if you sent a direct ask for that person's business yet, or if it's all mostly been soft selling. Because that would be, if you haven't even asked for the business, I wouldn't say that that's a time to stop.
I would say this, it was actually a referral when I spoke with the gentleman. And like, hey, this is the purpose of my call, so I was pretty direct, soft but direct. And he seemed to be interested at that time. What we're kind of going through is, this is a huge company, okay? And so at this time, he's working through the contract from his current janitorial partners. And he said, give me some time, but the communication has been a little iffy. And so it's one of those things where am I being brushed off because he seemed to be interested? I even gave him some of his colleagues' referrals, referring me to their business as well as some of his clients as well, saying, hey. So each time, I'm not gonna say each time, but almost each time that I've communicated with him, I'm giving him a referral letter like, hey,
Right.
Your folks want me. And so, because it's multiple businesses that they're over. And so with that being said, but I haven't gotten anywhere. So I don't
So
know.
here's a tip. Try this. If you feel like you're at the right point, we call it the breakup email. So subject line, and I'm a Seinfeld fan. The subject line, it's not you, it's me. And then it's like, hey, and then you would say almost exactly this. Hey, I've been trying to reach out and get this thing done, but it doesn't appear that this is something that you want to do. So with your permission, I'll leave you alone at least for a few months. Look forward to hearing for you at some point or whatever, some kind of close. Oftentimes they'll say, no, I've just been busy. That's not, I just haven't been able to get to it. You can also put in the subject line, no emails for you. And put a picture of the supervisor. So at that point, they're not a client. They can't buy anything less. You don't want to burn any bridges, and it's kind of funny. So
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, well, that's cute. That was interesting. So because you got nothing to lose, and then don't follow up. Put something on your calendar. 2 months from now, check in with Bob or whatever and see what happens. So be creative. Speaking of events, if you get a chance to speak on what you do, it's a good opportunity to show your authority. And if you speak on it, then the relationship, the trust comes faster. B2C, so this is consumer stuff. You got to be active on social, right? That's how the relationship gets built because you don't get a chance to, for one way, because you don't get a chance to talk to them. You can do sponsorships, and those can be expensive, but you can also give things away. We've given away on the Treehouse BC side, we've given away a one night weekday, which is a weekend draw book, and they're quite expensive. We'll give that away as a way to support, but also get the word out. Workshops, you can do workshops to show people how to, build something, fix something, wear something, whatever. And then events, try to go to things. I used it as an example. If you're B2C, one way you get your stuff out there is to show up at ACE every Saturday till 2 o'clock or whatever it is, people come by. And it's important whatever they do to gather information. So get their email address, put them on your list, and then follow up quickly with some type of offer. Assessing pains needs. So with B2B, you're going to do some type of formal discovery. When we actually have a discovery document that we follow the process, and it is part of it is to understand if they're qualified. And we use NAMIT, name it. Is there a need? Do they have the authority? Do they have the money? Is there a true interest? And what's the timing look like? HVAC, and that's gonna be, if they said, hey, we absolutely want to use you, but I've got to have it installed tomorrow by noon. You may be able to say, "Here, I'd love to, but I can't. There's just no way." So that's a qualification. But it's important that you have a process, because what we do is we have onboarding specialists. So if Ed became a client, he gets the onboarding specialist will pick it up, and those discovery notes are what they use to make sure they do everything correctly. Doing research, so right now you can learn as much about a company probably as some of the employees know about the company by just doing research. You can find out annual income or annual revenue, those kind of things. You can do it, yes.
Speaking of research to find annual income, I mean, I've been trying to do that for years, and I cannot figure it out without having to use paid resources.
Zoom info, just do it, go to Zoom info, it'll give you, now, again, if it's a private held company, they don't have to report that information, so it may or may not be exactly right. You're not trying to get exact income, you're trying to get directional income, right? So if I want to work with companies over $5 million, directionally, I can probably tell. I can also probably tell by looking at the number of employees. So it doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be directional. And Zoom info is one resource.
What if it's not a company, but if they're like a sole proprietor? Does it work for that as well?
Say that.
If they're not like a company, but they're a sole proprietor, like maybe it's under, like if it's a code word consultant, something like that, and they haven't like registered a business, but do those people normally maybe not report their
Well,
income?
by default, sole proprietor, no employees, there is a good chance it's not very big. So you need to know, does that fit your ICP? If it doesn't, then you probably don't need to contact them.
Got it. Okay, makes
So
sense.
so it's very important to know what your sweet spot is, what your ICP is.
Okay.
Job posting, this one's interesting, right? So if I'm selling cleaning services to commercial companies, might I go out and do a search on LinkedIn and it says cleanings, whatever a title would be for someone. And so if you know that XYZ company is looking to hire somebody to clean, why don't you apply, right? Apply as a business. And I talked about this yesterday. We even did a resume one time where it was Dave Creek Media, and we took everybody in the company, and we added all the degrees, all the experience, everything. We had this resume, and we picked up a new client by applying for this role. And we're like, that's unique. I've never seen anybody do that. So that's another good way to get there. On the B2C side, it is just still asking questions. If I'm Ed and I'm at Ace or whatever, and someone comes up and says, so what all do you have? Well, we have, very healthy beef products. But tell me about you. Tell me about your family. What do you guys normally like to have? Do you eat beef on a regular basis? Is healthy options, is that important? How big's your family? And now you're going through these filters like, oh, they're homeschooled. They must have 20 kids. And I can say that because we did. So that's and we don't have 20 kids. But it's like, hey, this could be a big family. Health is really important to them. They like to shop online, whatever. You're qualifying them to say, I really need to connect with these people. Or, yeah, I don't really care. I usually eat it, come and go. It's not a big deal. That's probably not your target. So you're trying to qualify them. You're still going to treat them as like your best customer ever, but from a follow-up standpoint, you may not keep doing that. You need to ask about budget, right? So, on a monthly basis, how much do you typically spend on meat, just to get an idea? Because you may not spend any more than what one ribeye is, right? So you need to use that to qualify. Is it need or want? The people buy emotionally and justify logically, right? So, oh yeah, I needed this new tractor. Forget that I could rent one for $500 or $400. I need to spend $20,000, $30,000 on one because I need it. I really need it. That conversation is actually taking place. So, but make sure you know what it is that's going to drive them. And then timing, talked a little bit about that on the B2B side. Sometimes you can't meet the need of whatever the timing is. We'll run out of time. We'll go quick. So once you have the relationship, you know what the problems are. Now you need to lay out a solution that meets those needs. So address their issues. Jeff Standridge uses this a lot. He said you go to a lot of websites and people are we all over themselves. We do this, and we do that, and we do this, and we do that, versus this is how we can help you. So focus on them. Have a logical flow. Don't just go in and start talking about stuff. Make sure there's a logical flow. Talk to them about what success looks like. You know, if we do this, and we'll ask that question, Tanisha, at the end of this contract, what has to happen for this to be the best deal ever? And they'll tell you, and then you can dig in and say, well, I can't guarantee revenue, but I can guarantee that you can get leads, or I can promise you whatever that is. And then make sure you've addressed all the objections, right? And there's a concept of red light, green light, yellow light, right? Yellow's our caution. I need to understand what the issue is. Green is like, we're good to go, keep going. Red means I need to slow down because I may not need to continue with this process. On the B2B side, you need to give them options potentially. Always be honest. If you don't know the answer, don't make something up. It'll bite you at some point. Don't make it up. And then this concept, help them see themselves driving the car. So the example that I like to use, and I told this story yesterday. Let's say I go into a car dealership. We'll use the car salesman as the example, right? I go into a car dealership and they said, I'm looking at trucks. And they pull my tractor that I need. They said, hey, this pickup truck, 500 horsepower. The body, titanium. The seats are made from an extinct ostrich out of Australia. I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot of information, but I don't know what am I supposed to do with this information? So I leave them, I go to another dealership, same truck, I walk in, the guy says, so tell me about yourself. What did you like to do? Well, you know, I've got two sons, one's 5 and one's 10, and we go to a lot of soccer tournaments all over the state, sometimes out of state, and I really need something kind of comfortable. He said, well, let me tell you about this pickup truck. So it's got 500 horsepower. So when you're in Dallas, I know you said you go all over the place. When you're in Dallas and you're trying to get onto the interstate from that on-ramp, when you accelerate, it's going to get up there safely. So you know that your family's going to be safe. This titanium steel, should you get bumped, this stuff is going to give, but it's also going to really protect your family from being injured. And I know you said you had 2 sons. Did they ever spill anything in the car? All the time. Ice cream, sodas, whatever. Well, this extinct ostrich from Australia, you will never mess it up. In 20 years, this leather will look exactly like it does now. Now I can see myself getting on an on-ramp. I can see someone bumping into me, my family's safe, and I can see little Johnny spilling stuff, but I cleaned up, it really is not a big deal. Who do you think they're gonna buy from, right? They're gonna buy from the one that you help them live the experience. So try to do that when you're laying out the solution. When you've done that, be confident, right? B2B. I think you even said, they'll go to other vendors, but I know we're gonna be the best, right? If you don't believe it, you're not gonna believe it, right? If you don't have confidence in what you're selling, the company you're working for yourself, you're gonna be you need to think about a different line of work or a different company. Remove any sales friction. So that could be, someone says the price is too high. Well, it may not be the price is too high, it could be the terms of the payment. So it might be, well, I know your budget ends in, June. What if we prepaid some and then we'll do the rest next year? So figure out what that is. Make sure you identify next steps, nail them right in. Get your calendar out, let's figure that out. And then ask for the business. On the B2C side, don't rush, increase basket size. And now I'm using beef sticks a lot. So someone comes up to you and says, how much is a box? Or how much is a stick? It's this. But if you bought a whole box, there's a discount, save about 10%. But quite frankly, you bought 5 boxes, it's even cheaper. So try to increase the basket size, because that way you don't have to have more customers. Validate the good decision. Yeah, you made the perfect decision on this. I can promise you, you're going to be so excited, and I look forward to sending you your next box of beef sticks. I'm going to have to finish lunch because we keep talking about beef sticks. I'm getting hungry. And be sure to get the contact info, whether it's B2B or B2C. You want to be able to follow up with a no, something very quickly. Even if they say no, just follow up with hey, I appreciate you being with me. I know we weren't the right fit, but if I can help in any way, just let me know. Be authentic. If you focus on helping others succeed, our solving problems will be much more successful. And I've done a whole session on the less you sell, the more you sell. So don't try to sell, try to solve problems. And so next time when we get in here and I ask you about what is a salesperson, what do you think of? You think a doctor, because they help you solve problems, they help you feel better and that kind of stuff. Not a car salesman, right? So hopefully this helped transition your mindset. And then just briefly, there are 3 roles that really, I think, are the primary roles within sales. So we have the sales development rep, so this is SDR. Think about this as the setter, the one that they get the appointment. Then you have the closer, and then you have the account manager. So there's like this person that's getting the appointment, they get the appointment, they schedule it with this person closes it, and then passes it to the account manager. You would feel like the handoff would be something clients would not like, but if they're highly specialized in their area, then they completely understand it. And if the experience is good, they're not going to worry about it.
It's the communication that's there passing along. That won't work.
That's right. If you tell them, you set the expectations, right? So
You're right, if you don't communicate that, then it just gets lost.
it's like, wait, I was talking to you. Why am I not talking to you? So we tell them, hey, during the sales process, we've got an onboarding specialist that's going to help you. So we're going to connect them. Their project, they're very detailed. They're much smarter than I am. They're going to do all this stuff. And they're like, okay, well, that's good. And then what they'll do is they'll get you with an account manager who you're going to love. In fact, they're probably going to try to hire them from us, and we're not going to let you. So make sure you talk about what the future looks like, right? Here's some details. I don't know if you'll get a copy of these, but this is kind of what a SDR does. So SDR's compensation could be, they get some type of hourly rate or salary. You could use interns, whatever. But think about paying them for every appointment that they set. So maybe there's a fee. And if they set the appointment, well, you can do a quote. Say, hey, I'm going to give you X dollars per hour. For every quote that I get to provide, I'm going to give you another $5. And if it becomes business, I'm going to give you an extra 10. That's a great way to motivate them so that they're passing that along. And it's not real expensive. You need to make sure that you're monitoring the number of appointments to make sure they're qualified, because they could make a bunch of money getting unqualified appointments. But if you follow that process, you'll be able to see. Closer, again, we're not talking about Jerry Maguire, someone that's just, somebody talking slick. This is just someone who knows how to take it from the appointment, identify the issues that are highly specialized. And we talked a lot, Grace brought this up, or came up with this term. I'm giving you credit on this, top of license, right? I really want someone who's so qualified on closing deals, making sure it gets across the line, to be on the phone all day or sending emails to a bunch of companies that he has no relationship with, trying to get the appointment set. I want everybody operating at top of license. And we refer to these as hunters. So the first 2 roles are really hunters. They get excited about the kill, right? They want to go out and they want to find another one. I'm in that category. Then the final is a farmer or an account manager. These people, you say, hey, I need you to contact someone or go present to someone brand new. They would freak out. They wouldn't be able to breathe. Their hands are going to get all sweaty. They're just like, I could never see myself. But when you get them as a client, they become best friends. The relationship, they're just incredible as a farmer. So know where people fit. And if you try to force a farmer to be a hunter or a hunter to be a farmer, you'll have limited success. So I thought there might be some college students here, so I'll put this in. So we have an internship that we use. So this is a formal program that we use to bring in interns primarily from colleges, and they'll come in and there's an interest night. So they come in. We've used this room before. Now we've got space in our office that we can use. But they'll come in and they will hear us talk about it. We'll introduce them to some of our team. We don't bring all 40 because then there would be no place for them to sit. And then we have tables. So like this could be social media table, web table, video table, project management, whatever that is. And then they go sit and they get to visit with the people that are responsible for that, the specialists. And then if we have openings, we'll pick the ones we want and interview. And we'll have anywhere from, I think we've had as many as 25 that come to the interest night, and then we've hired as many as 5 or 6. It just depends on our need at that point. So that's all I got. I fooled the whole time. I'm sorry. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
The first one is as far as the SPARK, the internship,
Mhm.
you said you have an interest meeting?
Yes, it's April 1st, actually. And if you go to our social media, there's, that QR code should take you to the landing page. It'll set up for that.
And something that you discussed yesterday, and I didn't really ask the question because I was being shy, can you believe that?
Not you.
You were talking about, networking and being an introvert, because I am an extrovert.
Yeah, I don't know if it's introverted extrovert or extroverted.
Extroverted, introvert, yeah. So what would be like some key tips, say at an engagement, that you can, start building relationships with strangers? For that extrovert, introvert.
So, I like to talk to it or compare it to basketball point guard. And you look at me and go, you surely didn't play basketball, but I watched basketball. So basketball point guards, the really successful ones aren't looking down at the ball. They've got their eyes up, right? They're scanning, they're looking, they know where the openings are, they know who's not being covered, that kind of thing. If you're trying to network, you need to be paying attention. Now, when it's just you, if you're having lunch with somebody, you want to make sure you're focused on that person. Now, I'm guilty because I know a lot of people. Part of it is because I'm old, right? So that's when you get to meet a lot of people. But I intentionally build relationships with people that I don't expect anything in return. And it's amazing how many times something will come up later. And I really like to understand the people that aren't maybe not in charge. So, restaurant, what's your name? Maybe they don't have it. Okay, great. And build that relationship with them. Not to get anything later, but you just kind of get in. It's muscle memory, right? You just get to meet people. Or I'll even go up if I'm checking out and say, "Are you the owner?" "Yeah, I am. This place is incredible. I'm shopping here all the time. Really appreciate it." I don't talk about myself, right? My oldest daughter at one of our family nights made the comment. It's not original. She said it's not original. She said, focus more on being interested than being interesting. So don't feel like you have to talk about yourself, learn more about them. Over time, they'll learn about you, right? So just get the muscle memory, find ways to get out. I would also say in this community, try to get on Toad Suck days. Try to volunteer, get on a board, do these kind of things. That is, I guarantee you, that's how my network has gotten so broad. I was involved with JC's, Young Optimist, Toad Suck days, coach basketball, coach soccer, coach baseball, involved in a bunch of things. The more you do that, and I didn't do any of those so that I can meet people. It just happened. Any other questions?
Not going to wholesaling. You just high level advice on wholesaling.
Remove as much friction as you can, and I apologize, I put a cough drop in, pollen is killing me. Make it as frictionless as possible. Don't give them too many options, keep it basic. So when you go meet with, like if you left here and went to goods cash saver, I don't know if they can make any decisions there, but it's like, hey, we've got, you can have a sheet, something you can leave behind. We've got this beef stick. And let me tell you why it's so popular. We get these in. So there's a saying that data tells, but stories sell. So tell the story. This is my second shipment in the last 2 months. We always sell out and remove as much friction as you can. You put it in front and say, hey, this will work in your store. And here's the price. You buy 3 boxes, 2 boxes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That here's what the pricing is, the recommended retail. So don't let them come up with it. City Market, whatever you want. But our suggested retail is X, which is 25 or 45% margin, whatever the margin is. So they don't have to calculate it themselves. You can tell them. And if you're that confident in it, especially on the new accounts, say, and I'm willing to put this in here. You pay for it. I'll be back within 30 days, but you're probably going to call me before then to tell me to bring some more. I'll come back in 30 days. You haven't sold. I will pay you back for everything you didn't sell. Now it's like, well, what's my downside, right? So remove as much friction as you can. And I'm 100%. If you've got enough margin on the wholesale account, I would load that truck up and I would just I would go out for 20 miles, 50, then 100, and I would saturate this area. I wouldn't pop the big plate, because then you got shipping, and it may be that you have a route that you run, that you just replenish it. Remove as much salt, make it easy for them to say yes. What else? Is this helpful?
Yes.
Sure.
Um,
I love talking about this. I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me, conductor. I did take one of the employee parking spaces, so I feel like all right, thank you.
We'll talk about it. We appreciate having you. I guess you can have a spot. Just friendly reminder, our next event is March 6th. We actually have our very own Mark sharing his startup story. So we'll have lunch. Please make sure to register. That's March 6th here at the AIC. Register so we can have an accurate head count. And then I wanted to give you guys a quick update. We have our new website. It's live. So it's still arconductor.org. If you get on it and you see any glitches or anything like that, just feedback, please send it to Mallory. No, just send it to any of us on the team. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you guys. Have a great day.